Hey friends, Shawn here with Manly Made Minute, and welcome back to another episode for Anthony's Papercraft. I am on his design team, and I just want to preface, we're going to start today, just as a reminder. I had a video several months ago, or about a month ago, on Anthony's Papercraft, and unfortunately, for me and for us, Anthony is going out of business as of January 1st, so he is running a huge store-wide sale on anthonyspapercraft.com. Everything is 40% off, and I just wanted to put that out there because the stamp that we're using today, as of me recording this on Friday night, December 13th, 2024, there are 18 of these stamps left. They are $9. A really great deal, a great stamp. I've used this stamp on other cards, but today I'm featuring this card in 5 different ways. I want you to be able to see whether it's Anthony's Papercraft or another stamp set or another company, when you're buying something, look at it in different ways. Look at it outside that norm or what it's probably set up to be, and see if you can push your limits on different ways to use that. So that's what I'm doing today, on pushing the limits on this floral background, and I'm doing it 5 different ways, 5 different techniques. So I have pre-made all 5 of these cards. I'm going to make one of them for you today, and just kind of show you what I did, how I did it, and my thought process. So if you look behind me at the gold frame around one of my logos I had made, I wanted to kind of repeat this concept of these antique gold frames with the floral things engraved and different things. That's where I got this inspiration for this card that we're going to make. So let's go down to my down table and take a look at the card we're going to make tonight, and then I will go through at the end and show you the other 4 ways that I use this background. All right, so to start, we're going to use the Floral Background 2 stamp. So if you're looking for this stamp on his website, it is the Floral Background stamp, number 2. And it is very, very, very detailed. It comes with the 1 sentiment that says "thanks a bunch." So I'm just using this stamp set exclusively tonight, just to show you this stamp set only, and show you what we can do with it. So let's take a peek at the card we're going to make. This is what we're going to make this evening. So I have made a black frame that I have gold embossed with this stamp set. Everything tonight is this stamp set only, nothing mixed with it. So I am going to gold emboss this. I have watercolored a background and stamped that stamp on it, and then use the sentiment here. I have set everything up on foam, so that is raised up from my card base, and I just left that white border with a little small frame in there. So I'm keeping things as simple as possible and as easy as possible to make. So what I want to do first is start and do the watercolor portion. So that has some time to dry as I do my frame. I may have to speed up the drying a little bit with my heat tool, but we'll give that some time to dry. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. We're going to come back to this, and then we're going to come back to my other 4 cards that I have made with this stamp. Now what I have done is super easy technique here for the watercolor. I'm using the Tim Holtz Distress Oxides. I've got Squeezed Lemonade, Mermaid Lagoon, and Mowed Lawn. I've pre-cut a piece of Canson XL water paper. This is just actually a scratch piece of paper, but it is cut to 4 inches by 3 inches because that's what I'm going to need to fill in that frame. Okay? This paper has 2 sides, a rougher side and more of a smoother side. I'm going to use more of that smoother side. There is no technique involved in this whatsoever. All we're trying to do is get a watercolor ombre kind of effect. All right? So you're going to take your ink pads directly to this watercolor. Smooth side up here. All right? I've got a little green left over from my sample, so I'm going to use the green down there. Squeeze Lemonade. Take that ink pad and saturate your card. Get it good and inked up. You want a good amount of ink on here. Okay? Don't leave any white space, essentially, is what I'm telling you. Now I'm going to take that Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm going to do the same thing. ink that up and get a good coverage with that ink. Okay? And then same thing with that modal on. Cover that last bottom piece, not leaving any white space. Okay? Now, take a bigger brush and get this really good and wet. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here for you. Good and wet. Now, the more you wet this, the more it's going to peel this off. So don't go over this too much, otherwise you're going to start removing that ink. And I'm just lightly working my way down. Okay, I'm going to rinse just a tiny bit. I'm going to pull some water off. I don't need this too wet anymore because I got it pretty wet this first time. And I'm just pulling this down. Get some of that green off. I've got a paper towel here on the side to wipe. And I'm going to just pull a little bit of this down because it's starting to seep up into my yellow. All right. That is it. I pulled up a little bit of green, but that's okay. Now I'm going to wipe this. I'm going to dry this just a little bit with my heat tool, just to start this drying a little bit. And then we're going to set this aside. I just want this to flatten down some here on me. We're going to set this aside to dry now as we do that frame. This frame is the most labor-intensive part of this card. Okay? All right, I'm going to let... You can see how I got a nice kind of ombre on that. Set that aside to dry. All right, now what I've done with this frame is I have the pink and main stitched rectangle set. I took the second one and the fourth one, and when I cut this, I laid the bigger one down. I centered that smaller one in between there, taped it down, ran it through my die cut machine. That is it. I just used 2 die cuts to make myself a frame. And I will put all of this this and everything else listed below in the comments so that you have all the supplies for this. Okay? This is an awesome stitch die set, by the way. Another design team member suggested them to me, and I am now hooked on them and ordering more. All right. Now, I have put this, I got a sticky pad in my MISTI. I've laid this frame out on my sticky mat so that it's kind of centered here, so that I have room to put my stamp. And now I have put the stamp so that the flower portions here are going down the edge of my frame. So that's the only thing I'm going to stamp right now is that. So I'm going to just put a little anti-static powder on there. We're going to get out our Versamark, and I'm going to be using the embossing powder gold super fine detail powder by Ranger for this one. I usually use gold or Princess Gold are my 2 favorites, but the gold comes out just a little brighter. So that's why I'm using it on this one. I wanted it a nice bright gold against that black. So I'm just Versamarking that floral portion and stamping this down. Now, to get a good detail on this frame, I ended up Versamarking this about 3-4 times. And then I will emboss in between so that I can see as I do this where my gold is, so that I can, as I realign this going around the edges, I can lay my stamp set in between everything so I get it nice and even around the edge. All right, so we're going to lift this up, and we're just going to lay our gold right over everything we just embossed or Versamarked. And I like to usually give it at least 2 little coatings here. All right, I'm going to emboss this, heat emboss this, and I'll be right back. Okay, you can see now I've heat embossed this side. I've rotated my frame now so I can get to these edges with my stamp. So now I'm going to realign. I have cleaned off my stamp so it's clean, so I'm not getting anything else on here. And now I'm just going to realign. Now, this time I want to get some coverage. So I'm going to use some of the stems. I'm going to use some of the flowers that are in the middle here because I'm going to bring this up and over as much as I can and see which way I want to go here. We're going to go this way. So I'm going to go start here, and I'm going to come across that frame so I can get some good coverage. And then I'll just leave that corner there to do a little bit in that corner. We're going to move this up. Okay, get this whole corner in with this stamp. Doesn't matter if I'm getting the branches, the twigs, the leaves, the flowers, because it will all blend as we do this. And you'll be able to see, you can see on my first one I did here, I laid the whole stamp down on this side. So here's my stems in there, my leaves in there, and then I got some of the flowers in there. The overall here is you're just wanting that carved kind of gold effect on this, right? All right, a little bit more powder down. And now we're just going to Versamark this side. And again, I'm going to have to do this about 3 times or so to get good coverage on that Versamark. Very detailed on the stamp, so I just want to make sure I got good coverage because you're not laying this down in any traditional sense where you can realign it. This is once I'm done stamping, I'm not going to be able to realign this once I lift that frame up. So that's why I'm doing this at least 3 to 4 times. And I can see when I've got good coverage on my paper there. Okay, same thing. Lay that powder down, give it 2 good coatings. All right, I'm going to emboss this one, and I'll be back. Okay, I've embossed the other side. Now it's just a rinse and repeat. So now I'm just going to pull in this little corner here. And I'm going to just basically get the tips of those flowers, and this is a little piece of leaf right there, on that last little corner. And same thing, okay? Get a good set of your Versamark on there. And I'm just going to repeat this process with the gold powder and then the heating it up and emboss it. And I'll be right back. Okay, my frame is now embossed. You can see I've got kind of some bare spots from just laying this stamp around. I'm okay with that. I don't want this to be too solid. I like the randomness of it. So I'm okay with some of those spots. If you're not, just re-put your stamp in there and get some of those spots in there and re-emboss it. But I'm actually okay with that. So now what I've done is, while I was doing that to finish embossing, I took a little piece of black scrap paper, embossed my Thanks a Bunch sentiment that comes with this, and my piece is just long enough to sit on the edge of my frame and come into here so I know about where to put my floral when I do this. Okay, now I've dried the rest of the way, the piece that we've ombre watercolored. I'm putting it kind of in the middle of my MISTI so that I have room to put my stamp in here so it's not butted up against, because these stamps, especially these edge stamps, tend to get in the way of the edge of the MISTI, so I always have to move it in the middle. Now I'm just going to set this, so I'm going to leave that corner blank enough for my sentiment. I want the florals in there. I want to make sure that top little flower's in there. So I'm going to go right about there, and all we're doing is making the little picture that's going to go inside this frame with that same stamp set. Now I'm not using black. I'm actually using Cargo by Catherine Pooler ink. It's a dark, dark, dark brown, almost black when you stamp it, because I just want this to have a slight kind of antique feel. I don't want this too crisp black against my black frame, but you could stamp this in any color you want. You could do tone on tone and do yellow, blue, and green in there. You could just do you could do any color you want with this. I'm just going more of a antique-ish kind of dark, dark, dark brown. Okay, and sometimes when I do a one stamp with these, sometimes it doesn't get completely solid, and you'll see this on my other samples. I've left some like that, so it looks a little more antiqued. Some of them, though, I did do it and kept stamping a couple times, so I got a nice crisp stamp. This one, I don't care if it's too crisp. I just want this antique kind of feel because I'm going for that antique frame. Remember, that was behind me. And I'm okay with that. It's not super crisp. I'm going to get a little bit more in that leaf. And the stem right there. Yeah, I'm actually okay with a one stamp on this. Now, what I usually do, because it takes a little bit when I'm layered up on this, especially on these oxides, is I will just take and dry that ink a little bit before I start playing with this too much. So I don't smudge and smear, which is very typical of me, is to smudge and smear. So I'm trying my best to get as careful as I can now, but not always. So I just want to make sure that's got good and dry before I start handling that too much. All right, now what I did on the first one is I put foam tape down. And this is right at that edge. So I'm actually going to put, I'm actually going to glue this one down so it's nice and tight because it's just at the edge of my measurement here and here. And so I won't be able to foam tape the top. So I'm going to glue the edges and then set this a heavy weight on it to dry. So it flattens out just a little bit more. But I'll set this whole frame then up on foam. I'll turn this over just to see if I've got it nice and straight and lined up. Like so. And I'm just going to put a little weight down on that to dry and get it good and flat. Now what I'll do is I'm just going to take some foam squares. Actually, we're going to take some, I think this is a 1/2 inch foam that I have. I'll show you on camera here. So I'm going to use this 1/2 inch foam tape that I have. And we'll put some strips on there and put this down on a card base. Okay? A2 size card base. And you'll see on the samples that I made, I did do some stamping on the inside. Just to carry that theme kind of onto the inside of the card. Not necessary. You could actually put another sentiment on the inside of these if you wanted to carry that in. And I'm probably not going to stamp the inside of this one just for time purposes because you'll see what I did on the other cards. All right. Now, there is our framed card. Okay. Now I'm going to take and add my sentiment on here, but I'm going to put this down on foam tape here first. Okay. So I'm just going to run my foam tape from top to bottom on this. So I get good adhesion, putting it kind of on the edge, and then we'll put a couple down that middle. And I'm just going to go right around the seam, since those seams were just borderline a little short. And then we'll go one down the middle. All right, now we'll lay this down first, flatten this out just a little bit because it's still wanting to curl a little bit on me. So as I prep that sentiment piece, because we're just going to flag cut the end of that sentiment piece. So hopefully you're going to get some ideas, not just for Anthony's Papercraft stamps, but for other stamps that you purchase or ones that you already have, right? Think of these outside the box and think of different ways to use these. But I wanted to use this set just because Anthony does have still a good amount of these in stock. Great price on them for $9. Great sets. There are a couple background stamps. The corner ones with the pansies and the zinnias are some of my favorites out of the florals. These ones here are just really nice to get some nice antique kind of feel out of them. So basically I'm just centering this on my card because I'm going to keep that white edge on it. Right? Now I'm just going to lay my weight on there to kind of hold that down in place and get that to seal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flag this side because this side's going to go straight to my frame and go that way. So usually I'll just put a little, go about center, I eyeball it usually, a little slit there, and then I'll just cut right to that on one side, and then I'll meet up with it on the other. If I do not have a flag punch, but by all means, if you got a flag punch, even easier. Okay, that is it on that. Now, because this is flat this time, I put it all in dimensionals. The time before, I had to put dimensionals just on this side and then glue this side down. But now because I did it flat, I'm going to pop this one up on dimensionals. I'm going to use the leftover here of my strip to pop this up. And what I've done with these other stamps is I've done this so that essentially I'm reusing things, and so there's not much scrap left. You know, one card was literally I ink smushed because I had leftover ink, and so I'm like, well, we're going to ink smush this one and use up this ink and not waste it, and it worked out perfect to stamp over that just for the colors that I had left over. So, all right, put a little glue on there so it gives me just a little wiggle room. Okay, now I'm just going to lay this in so it fills that empty space, and then I'm going to go straight to the edge of my frame, and there you have it. It looks way more complicated than it truly is. Easy techniques, right? Just pop this up a little bit. Easy techniques. Basically, smear your pad down, wipe it with water to get nice ombre and get it softened out, stamp over it. Boom, done. Watercolored paper. I used two different die cuts, one to size here. I could have used that full frame one and full size one and then a smaller one, and so it went to the edge of the card. Or I could even made this smaller, whatever you want to do. Then I just did two sizes smaller, so I had a good amount of width to stamp on to emboss. Then we just took and put this in my MISTI, and I laid that stamp around the edges, and then Versamark and gold embossing powder to get that antiqued kind of embossed, you know, golden kind of carved frame, right? All right, this is one. Let me show you my other ones. I'm going to zoom out just a tiny bit here. So this is number one. Now this is the Floral Background 2, 5 ways. Way number one. Here's way number 2. Now this stamp technically is packaged this way, so you set this on the edge, flowers grow up, and you set it in the corner of your card. I just essentially took that stamp and turned it upside down and stamped it so I had the flowers coming down from the top of my card because my card opens here, and then I put that sentiment. Again, I used Distress Oxides. I used just a green and a little bit of lemonade in the middle and pink. I went past where I knew that stamp was going to go, so I had it softened out past that stamp. So that pink comes out just a little bit past that stamp. All right? So Floral Background number 2, upside down in the corner, ink blended out the corner, down to white. Okay? Floral Background way number 3. This is usually one of my favorite techniques. So what I did is I took the edge, top edge of this stamp, right? So if you look at this, I took this top edge, I turned it this way, and then I just laid it so that the tips of those flowers are coming up like a garden, is all I was trying to do. Now I stamped it in a very light gray. Then I took watercolor, and what I did is I took the oxide inks, again, ink smushed it over here, took my paintbrush in water, and then I painted where I knew those flowers would land over the gray stamping. So I had, you know, pink flower, purple flower, pink flower, blue flower, yellow flower, and then I over watercolored because I wanted it to look like it bled out. Put green where I had all my stems. Then I just put this back in my MISTI. When I did this, I did not remove my stamp from my MISTI because I was going to re-stamp it. Then I put this back in the MISTI, stamped it in black a couple times to get it nice and crisp, and then put my sentiment in the corner. Then I actually used the new Distress Spritz pickled raspberry and just lightly sprayed. I got a couple big blobs in there, but I lightly sprayed it out just to give me some shimmer on this one and get some matchy-matchy with the pink. Okay, way number 4. Way number 5, or excuse me, that was number 3. Way number 4, simple black and white. Can always do a simple black and white. So I just did it in upside down again, but I didn't do the whole stamp. I just used the tips of the flowers, and then I turned my paper, and I did it twice. So I stamped it once, turned it, stamped it again, so I had it in opposing corners, and then I put my thanks a bunch in the middle. Little tip, I did not do it, but it worked out perfect for me this time, but put your sentiment in first and center it, because then when you do your stamps, you can lay it around your sentiment so that when you flip your paper, it leaves you enough space around that sentiment to have a sentiment. So do your sentiment first, then lay your stamp around it, stamp the corner, turn it, stamp the other corner, and you're good to go. And then the last one was I used the leftover ink that I had from this one that I had smushed down here, sprayed it with water, took a scrap piece of paper, and just ink smushed the rest of it. Then I took a little bit of extra yellow because I wanted a little bit more yellow. Ink smushed a little extra yellow on there. Let that dry. And then I just stuck this in my MISTI. I stamped it in the corner. Then I took 2 different colors. I took my Salvaged Patina and my Mowed Lawn Distress Spritz. Distress Spritz a little here. Oh, a little bit of the Salvaged Patina here. Then I just did a little of that pickled raspberry right over the flowers. I dried it, and then I just re-stamped it to get it a little bit more crisp on the stamp. Okay, so this was just leftover ink that I added the Distress Spritz to, and then stamped it a couple times after I dried it completely to get a nice crisp on that. So let's just lay these out for you and zoom out so you can see this 5 ways. So here's the one that we did this evening. Okay, one of my favorite techniques. Leftover inks, your simple black and white, and then turn that puppy upside down and go from the top down with some ink blending out from that corner down. Floral background number 2, 5 ways. Hope you liked this. Hope this gives you some ideas. Head on over to anthonyspapercraft.com. Give this guy some love as he closes out his business here on January 1st. 40% off the entire website. No code needed. I do not get any commission off of it. I am a design team member. I have gotten these products all for free, just to feature, just to play with, just to give you fresh ideas with his stamps, but no affiliate links. So head on over there. This one is the floral background number 2. It is $9 right now. That is after the 40% off. So it's a great, great deal. I will tell you, so the other one that's on there that is an absolute favorite of mine, let me grab it. I know it's behind me because I'm about to make a card with it, is the cardinal stamp. Beautiful stamp to watercolor. So grab yourself one of these because it's great for Christmas. It's great for anybody. Great sympathy card. When a cardinal shows up to somebody, that means a past loved one has shown up to say hello and check on you. So a cardinal's a great one to have in your stash for Christmas, for sympathy, for thank you. Can use anything. This one's great to watercolor. So let me just show you really quick. One more quick time. Here's your floral background number 2, 5 ways. And I hope you guys got something out of this. Before we go, thanks for hanging with me. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I am a design team member on Desiree Tango, so I do feature stuff there. I've got a ton of new stuff to feature coming up in the next few months. A ton that I got on Black Friday sales, and I can't wait to play. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notify button when I upload my next video. I do have a Scrappy Short every other Saturday and Monday Moments every Monday that I feature. So thanks for hanging with me. And as always, until next time, I'll see you then.